Just wanted to lead off today's video with some breaking news that came across the wire yesterday evening. It was reported by Lisa Haven, Justice Knight, Restricted Republic. The Next News Network on YouTube has been completely demonetized. Now, their particular site is Restricted Republic, but I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with N3 or the Next News Network. They've been around for a very long time. I think 10, 12 years at least. They have over 1.5 billion views on YouTube, and they were taken down. Why? We don't know, but it goes to show that nobody is immune here. Now, Lisa Haven, Restricted Republic, Justice Knight, they've been around for a while themselves. They have their basic website. Go over there, sign up. Great, fantastic info. They also have the Lisa Haven channel, of course, and then We're Forked Up. They have this really wonderful, kind of more relaxed channel where they go out and they sample food and they have drinks and just kind of relax and have a good time. So I just wanted to cover this, and Lisa Haven has been coming to the Florida Maquis recently and giving a shout out on her channel. So I always want to make sure that I am thankful and think of everyone. If we work together, we can beat this. We can muddle through and survive. Now, as always, thank you to everyone. It is more critical now than ever that if you have the ability to support channels that you agree with on these platforms, it's very important that you do so. I have mine, my Patreon channel, that is, my crowdfunding channel, set at the lowest allowable possible level of $1 per month. That's for everything, even less if you sign up for an entire year. Partnering with Vimeo, we can do things and show things that sometimes bother people, but that's what freedom's all about. Would love to have you over there, and once again, if it's not for you, perfectly fine. That's absolutely not a problem. Not everything is for everybody. It's fully refundable first 90 days, and there's a couple hundred videos over there. You could go over there and watch a new video every single day for the next 2 or 3 months. So, would love to have you over there. Now, what do we talk about primarily? Psychological operations. I've got a video here on YouTube for you guys today that is going to blow your mind. What if I told you what's going on with the U.S. military and the Dobbs decision is directly tied together? Florida Maquis, I think you've messed up. The Dobbs decision was the decision that recently overturned Roe v. Wade, where the Supreme Court said that there is no constitutional right to an abortion. What does that have to do with the military and the free fall that has occurred, not only in recruiting, but in their ability to promote soldiers? And that's out on Army Times yesterday. What do those two things have to do with each other? Well, when you think about it logically, with a clear mind, you can see that the reason 18, 19-year-old young men join the military is the same reason that young women have children. Now, what's that reason? Well, largely at that age, it's driven by emotion, meaning that young men decide, I'm feeling patriotic, I want to join the service, there's a lot of benefits to it. There's something in it for me, though, that's going to supersede all of the pain and the grief and the heartache that goes along with joining the military. It's not going to be all roses and sunshine and parades. There's going to be a lot of difficulties that go along with it. But what I personally get out of it, here, pay attention. This is the most important part. What I personally am going to get out of it at the end of my enlistment is going to be greater than the amount of suffering that I'll have gone through. That's the idea. Young guys who've been out there in the military, back me up. That was the decision you made then when you were 18 years old, right out of high school, maybe 19 years old, and you signed up. Now, let's go over to the other side for a second. Young ladies who want to have children primarily want to have children on their terms. They know that carrying a child and caring for a child is going to be a lot of work. There's going to be a lot of problems that go along with it. And there's going to be a lot of sacrifice. But what they get out of being a mom, is going to be greater than what they have to sacrifice. That's the thought process. Now, A country cannot survive, a culture cannot survive without young men willing to defend it and young women willing to repopulate it. Okay, that's the key. That's the tie-in. But what does it have to do with Dobbs and what's going on with the military? Well, guess what? See, right now in the military, young men are making this calculation. There's nothing in it for me. Because in 2 years or 4 years at the most, maybe a little bit longer, the person who's in the Oval Office making the decisions about the military might be somebody fundamentally, morally different than what I agree with now. See, those guys who joined under Trump are like, well, I'm getting out now, especially after the 2020 sniffles solution, if you know what I mean, making me have to participate in that particular medical paradigm. There's a lot of guys getting out and they're saying, I'm going to sign up. I'm going to do my 4 years. I'm going to get my lifetime VA care, which exempts me from Obamacare. And that's right. And a lot of people don't know that if you sign up, do your 4 years in the military, you have lifetime VA care after that, and it exempts you from the mandate with Obamacare. But we don't really train 18-year-olds to make lifelong decisions, do we? Nor do we train young women to make lifelong decisions. Imagine at 18 years old making a decision to have a child that you're still going to be responsible for when you're 36, 18 years later. Imagine that. Now, here's the part that's going to blow your mind. We got 6 branches of the military. Here's the article from Army Times. Junior NCO promotions have collapsed. Here's the data and why. Now, when you look at this, it's stunning. End of 2019, Q1, E4 to E5 rate promotions. Of those who had the ability to get promoted, 30% did. E5 to E6, about 21%. You know what it is now? In 2023, 4% to go from enlisted to NCO, E4 to E5. And that one next bump up, only 2%. You see, the entire thought process is changing. It's shifting. Now, you can say, well, I can think of a lot of reasons you'd want to not worry about getting promoted in the military or just want to get out or not sign up to begin with. But what does this have to do with Dobbs? Well, definition: a military or armed force is a professional organization formally authorized by a sovereign state to use lethal or deadly force and weapons to support the interests of the state. Meaning, primarily, here's all the different training they go through. It is very likely, as a soldier, you are going to have the power of life and death in your hands after 6 to 8 months. You got your 8 weeks of boot camp. Infantry, very quick. I think it's 14 to 16 weeks now, maybe 18 weeks, I've heard. But the vast majority of combat MOSs will be ready to go and deployable in 6 months. Now, in 6 months in the military, you'll be lucky to have been promoted once, E1 to E2. If you're lucky, you'll make E3 by the end of your first year. So none of those promotions I just talked about even apply to these young men who have the power of life and death in their hands. The decisions that they're going to make on a combat battlefield are going to fundamentally change their lives. The amount of training the military provides after this event is going to have no effect. They're going to have made a decision at 18 years old that could possibly affect the rest of their life, and the U.S. military is worried about training soldiers far beyond that in things that are really going to have nothing to do with it, meaning that if this guy has to go out on the battlefield and he's got to take somebody's life, that is going to affect him in a way way more than any of the little minutia that gets trained in ANOC or BNOC or a master's development course or anything like that. That's going to mean nothing. And this is the requirements for promotion, U.S. Army. Your basic, this is to E5, to E6, to E7, to E8, E9, all these different leader courses. But way back here, got to remember, to get even to basic leader, you got to be E4. Meaning at this point, you've probably been in at least 2 years. Meaning you've been deployable for a year. You could have been deployed on a combat battle for a year as an E3. And then they're going to say that at that point, they're going to say, okay, now it's important to start the training. Now it's important to start the training. Okay, we get this about the military, Maki. What does that have to do with the whole thing with Dobbs? Well, the same government that deploys our soldiers, we have just said, okay, now has the power of life and death, regardless of what the mother may or may not want. It's called forcible gestation. Hold on right there, Mickey. Nobody forced her to have... That's true. That's true. Nobody forced her to engage in activities that cause babies. That's true. But nobody forced the 18-year-old to go volunteer and sign up, did he? Did we? But we encourage that, don't we? We encourage patriotic young men and women to go serve their country. Do we not encourage people to begin families? Well, yes, but we need them to begin families on their trip. How often is that really the case? Truly. How often is that? How often is that really the case, ladies? If you're lucky enough to have your first one be a planned event, it's highly unlikely your second one's going to be a planned event, or vice versa. One of them's going to be an oopsie daisy, in most cases. But where's the training? You see, it's like with the 18-year-olds going in the military, literally they teach them to kill in the first 8 weeks. And don't bother to get their mind right about what effect that's going to have on their life until way farther down the road. The same thing with young women. Young women have the power of life and death in their hands. Do they not? In the case of Dobbs and ending a pregnancy or keeping a pregnancy, they have a decision to make. The power of life and death in the hands of 18-year-olds. This is the tie-in. For our country to survive, for our country to live, to thrive going forward, we need to focus a whole lot more on what's going on with 18 and 19 and 20-year-olds than we need to care about what's going on in the White House with an 80-year-old. Because the perception is the reality here with Dobbs. The perception is with Dobbs that government can now force you to gestate a child you don't want or you don't believe you're ready for. That's the perception. The perception is Dobbs has made it infinitely difficult to end a pregnancy if you're not ready for it, or if it's unintentional, or if you're using it for convenience, or whatever the perception is. You know what? I'm not going to even engage in the activity that could create a child. Meaning, if I have a choice between lifestyle A, meaning traditional Christian man and woman lifestyle, or lifestyle B, the homosexual lifestyle, where there's 0% chance you'll even be confronted with the possibility of a pregnancy, what is an 18-year-old going to decide? Think about that again clearly. Everything else being equal, Dobbs is actually pushing young people to choose what they're going to perceive as the less government intrusive, the less risky choice. What does that have to do with the military? Guys, if you could sign up for the military, and they say, okay, we have an option for the military here that doesn't require you to use a weapon or even participate in any activities that could lead to anybody dying. You don't have to learn to fire a rifle. You don't have to learn to deploy any type of an offensive weapon whatsoever. You don't have to drive a tank. You don't have to drop a bomb. We have this part of the military over here that's completely 100% insulated from that. How many guys do you think would sign up for that? At 18? Of course they would. Of course they would. No chance of getting shot. No chance whatsoever. See, just like with young women, they're going to start making decisions. Well, the whole idea that I might get pregnant before I'm ready, and then because of Dobbs, I might be forced to carry the child to term, even though I don't think I'm ready, and then either put the child up for adoption or try to raise or whatever. That's the perception. That's going to be the perception. That's the reality. They're going to choose a different lifestyle. Basically, what's going on with the military is this. You're going to see a huge, precipitous collapse in the amount of people even considering joining the military, and you're going to see the same precipitous collapse in the amount of young men and women choosing a traditional Christian lifestyle. Man and woman. Because why? Because of the risks. They're going to choose the least risky option, which is primarily what a lot of parents teach their kids. If you have a whole bunch of options out there, find the least risky one. Well, right now, especially with what's being talked about with, raising a child, it's decades-long commitment. Decades and decades, 18 years at least. So 2 decades of your life. It's going to change you fundamentally. And once again, that's from the raising the family standpoint. You go get put out on a battlefield after 4-6 months of training in the Army, and you're forced to take someone else's life. That's going to change you fundamentally for the rest of your life. You're never going to forget that day. You're going to know what you had for breakfast that morning, for lunch that afternoon, for dinner that. You're going to know every detail of that day that you were forced at 18, 19 years old to take someone else's life. You see, that's the kicker about this. It's 2 things that you wouldn't normally think would be tied together that are going to be directly tied together going forward now. And it's something you wouldn't really necessarily think about unless you were, quote unquote, thinking and not feeling. And ironically, about the irony of all ironies about that is that joining the military or having a child is usually something that is done by people in an emotional state. Because 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds are. Definitely the activity that leads to a baby, emotions for sure, and joining the military, that's gung-ho, let's go, be the best we can be, and let's, learn how to be soldiers or be Marines or pilots or, whatever they want to be. But this is what the channel over at Patreon's all about. We take that kind of stuff and we take it to the next level. And it's something that you won't see reported in the mainstream media. Because, once again, the mainstream media doesn't want you thinking. It only wants you feeling. So, anyway, I just wanted to cover that, leave that there. But, once again, say a prayer for those at the Next News Network. I watched the video that the proprietor put out, and it's a huge financial punch in the gut for them. They may have to make some major serious changes going forward over there, so keep them in your prayers. And once again, Lisa Haven, Justice Knight, thank you. God bless you guys so much. I so much appreciate the shout-outs. I appreciate the mentioning of the Florida Maquis. Keep fighting the good fight over there. We're here at the Maquis. We're fighting for you too. So check out Lisa Haven. Pretty easy. LISAHAVEN. Lisa Haven. Restricted Republic. Justice Knight. We're Forked Up. Great stuff. Anyway, I hope everyone has a great week out there. God bless. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you guys next time.